Hi, everybody. This is Chad, and welcome to this episode of Slate Digital Sessions. And the focus of this one is going to be sound design tricks for building out a track using the Anna 2 synthesizer and other plugins from the Complete Access bundle. Now, we're doing things a little differently this time. I'm actually coming to you from Berlin, and we're going to be learning from Kevin, who's one of the product owners, and he's over in the studios in Los Angeles. So we are the students today, and Kevin is going to show us how this is done. So if you have any questions, please feel to write them into the chat, and we'll take it from there. So, Kevin, over to you.
Everybody, my name is Kevin. That is my name, but some of you may know me as Last Night. I make all kinds of dance music, and today I'm going to take you through a house beat I'm working on, and I'm going to show you how I made some of my presets from scratch. I'm going to show you some unreleased presets that are coming very soon. And I'm going to show you some of my favorite advanced techniques for finishing tracks. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check this out. I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. I'll play the track out.
Oh, man. I was grooving.
Yeah. No, I'll play the second half at the end there, but you get the idea. I want to just jump right into these pianos. This is kind of the first patch I made for this song, and it's definitely the most simple as well. But it's really cool. I wanted to showcase this one because this piano is actually a multi-sampled piano. So what that means is each note of the scale is recorded, so you're not just pitching one sound up or down to make this sound. So it's really nice. Let me just go ahead and solo this. And I'm going to turn off all of this down here as well, just so you can really hear what Anna is doing by itself.
Okay.
And I've got a filter here as well, so let me turn that off.
Yep.
So yeah, this is super easy to make. There's not a lot going on here. None of the oscillators are being used except for this first sampler. And what I did here was, all I did was open up the presets here, and if you've downloaded the Slate multi-sample packs, you'll be able to just go right in here and choose any of these cool instruments to start a new sound from. And there's obviously a ton of cool presets to use as well in those packs. So yeah, it's as simple as just loading up one of these patches and using all the really cool features of Ana 2 to kind of shape your sound however you want. Like I could add synth layers, I could do cool filtering, anything with the G envelope and the LFOs, you can really go crazy. But I really just wanted a clean, nice, simple piano sound. So I achieved that by using all of these really, really cool plugins. Yeah.
Oh yeah, now there's all this space.
Yeah,
like
that's
a delay going around and stuff.
Yeah, that's going to be that SSL X delay, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, since this patch is so simple, I didn't want to go too crazy. I didn't really do a ton of like mixing or sound design to it. I just wanted to bring out the sound and really just kind of like finalize it and make it sound pretty. But really what's doing the work here is these lush keys that I've put underneath. So immediately, really warm, really cool vibe.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was actually like one of those multi-synth, piano pad patches, but you actually got it as two separate tracks. That's cool.
Yeah, and this patch, I didn't make this one. This one's really cool. This is actually one of those unreleased patches that I was talking about. And it's called Cassette Brass, and this pack is going to be coming out next month, Ultra SD 1.3. Super cool. This whole bank was made by Agent Method. Shout out Derek for making such good content for us. But yeah, same idea. I didn't do a ton of post-processing here. Virtual mix rack and Infinity EQ. That's really all I needed here. Let's go ahead and hear that by itself, though.
Yeah, subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's brighter, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and with everything engaged, really just a little brighter, a little more full. Nothing too crazy. I did use the synth lead pusher preset within Virtual Mix Rack for this one. And I didn't really do any tweaking here except for just pulling up the thickness here, just making it a little bit warmer. It's a little
It's
too much
definitely a
there.
warm sound.
Yeah, really lush, really cool. I love this preset. It's probably my
sits
favorite
under
one
nice.
from that pack.
Yeah, it sits nicely under the piano.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I've kind of blended these two together by using Murder Melodies as well, which is just doing some cool filtering. I added a little bit of dimension as well, and some saturation, and some ensemble, but just really subtle nudges, nothing too crazy. And I've cut out some of the low frequencies using the high pass filter here. And I'm just bringing them in really slowly with the low pass filter. Super simple.
Yeah, some automation.
Yeah, really cool. And yeah, like every DAW is going to be different, but you can just pull up the automation, and if you want to save that as well, you can just pull this down, and that'll just be open whenever you want to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
But what really brings these sounds together to me is going to be this drone down here. You can already see like this chain is a little nuts.
Whoa.
There's a lot going on. But I'll break it down. It's really not that complicated. It just takes a little while to kind of get used to these things and how they work. But yeah, let's bring that in with the chords and everything, because I wanted to talk about this. I've heard this all over the place. This is a really good technique, just using a drone to kind of bring out the emotion of your chords by using like the third. It's a really nice trick. It just kind of creates that space for your song. It's like the atmosphere, you know? It just ties everything together and brings out the feeling of those chords. So let's hear all of that together with this drone. So yeah, you get the idea there.
It's really pretty.
Thanks. So yeah, let's go back. Let's take a step back and check out what's going on with this whole FX chain. I'm going to turn this off.
Massive chain.
Yeah, this was a fun one. It's really fun to do this kind of stuff. There's a lot of like LFO mapping and macros and all that good juicy stuff. But
Right.
this is the sound just by itself without that chain.
Oh yeah, that's
This
kind of bright and almost boring.
Yeah, this was another patch. I think it was from that same pack that I just showed before, the SD1 Volume 3, but I changed it so much that I kind of just renamed it. Well, maybe not so much, but enough to warrant a new preset. And I wanted to save it into my user library so I could have that quick access as well. But yeah, not a lot going on, just a simple kind of sustained note just to solidify the key and bring everything together. But yeah, so let's turn this on, and I'm going to just bring each of these in one by one. I'll turn some of this off at the end as well. Okay, so the first thing you see is these macros, but that's actually the last thing I added, so I'll get back to that once we finish showcasing this whole chain.
Okay.
The first thing here is just a simple infinity EQ. This was just to kind of shape the sound a little bit more. There's nothing crazy going on. Just some cuts and boosts, you know, taking out some of the low end information that's not really there, but just in case.
Just keep it clean.
Yeah. The next thing here, this is where the sound really starts to change. I brought in Murder Melodies, and I did drop it down an octave. So let's check
Up in
this
the
out.
corner. Yeah.
Yeah, it's lower. I added some spread, so it's wider. A little dimension again here. I added ice because it's like a nice kind of sound designy reverb that just like creates that really icy space. Perfectly named. And then some rhythm here. It's just like a delay, rhythmic delay. And I pulled the amount down to around 69%. And that's just to kind of blend it together. We got that low octave kind of driving the sound, but then a little bit of that high end energy is still in there as well.
Yeah.
And I did do a little bit of mapping to the macros, but like I said, that was the last thing I added, so we'll get back to that at the end. They just add a little bit more control, so you can, well, you'll see why I did that. I did add a lot of randomization using these LFOs. So this LFO is tied to the low-pass filter of Murder Melodies. So if I pull this up, you can start to hear it a little bit more. Here it's kind of jittery. It's like ducking in and out.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted a little bit of movement there. It's not, the depth is pretty low, and it's not really jump, like you can see here, it's just like really, really small, kind of jittery movements. And I did that by obviously pulling up the jitter and making smooth 100%.
Okay.
But the next thing we did here was bring in Harrison Tremolo Panner, which is a really cool plugin. I use this a lot for my panning. Because you have a lot of control here. It's really, really nice. And I've done the same thing by mapping a couple actually LFOs to different parameters. I have the LFO here attached to the BPM of the Harrison Tremolo Panner. And you can see it's not doing anything. Well, it's not doing much yet because I actually have
Just changed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have I have the rate pretty low, so it's really slow movements. But then I have this LFO actually mapped to the rate. So now you can start to see the BPM is just kind of going wild. It speeds
Modulations
up.
of modulations.
Yeah, yeah, modulations on modulations all day. I really wanted to get something like unique and different with this patch, especially because it's just playing like a note basically, with some change here and there, a few harmonic layers added in. But since it's just one long note kind of playing throughout the entire song, I wanted it to have a lot of cool movement and kind of get like that sparkle and different modulations going to really just keep it interesting. And with everything else playing, you don't even really notice it that much unless you're like really, really looking for it. But yeah, so anyways, that is the Harrison Tremolo Panner. Really, really cool plugin. And the next thing I've done here is add SSL Modulate, which is really cool. I engage that and you can start to hear a bit of a change. I'm using the phaser, the flanger, the lo-fi, and space in this plugin. Everything else is not active right now. But let's see what I did here. Okay, LFO, this is tied to the mix. So this is gonna be jumping up and down. And I did not randomize this one. I wanted it to be a little more fluid, just coming in and out. Too much randomization can get a little hectic. So I just wanted to keep this one a little bit more grounded. But yeah, so that's just pulling up the mix. You'll hear some flanging, some phasing with that. But then I have this LFO here tied to Lo-Fi's retro. So that's kind of popping up here. You're not gonna totally hear all of these things front and center until I start messing around with the macros a little bit more, which is the last thing I did.
Okay.
I did add fresh air here as well to kind of like finalize the sound, give it a little more air, exactly what it does.
Yeah, it's bringing out this like crinkly, like maybe that's the retro bit that I'm hearing coming through now more with the fresh air.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I'll mess with the macros here in a second. You'll hear that even more. I did add another instance of the same preset, Synth Lead Pusher. This one's really nice. I like it. It's just kind of always makes it sound a little better to me when I'm using Anna or any other synth. Pretty subtle, but you can start to hear the characteristics of the flanger and all those different things happening within Modulate and all these other plugins as well. It just kind of brings everything out a little bit. And then I do have a filter here at the end, but that one is really just kind of leading you into this sound. I'll pull up the automation so you can see. It's kind of just easing you into the sound at the beginning of the song and then kind of like drops out here right before the drop. Then I don't touch that again. But it does cut out a little bit of the high frequencies because it's kind of like a lo-fi house track, so I didn't want the most high-end energy in there. And when I get it mastered, a lot of that will come out anyways. Yeah, so let's take a step back and I'll bring us back to the macros here.
Yeah.
So the first one here I have is attached to the amount. So if I want to go back to just that higher sustained sound, I can just completely take murder melodies out of the mix.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and you can even get some cool kind of automation going. Like if I wanted to have it evolving and changing throughout the song, that's just one extra layer of control that you have there. And then the lo-fi mix, once I bring this up, you'll start to hear a lot more of that kind of sparkly texture.
Yeah, that gritty bit, yeah.
Yeah. Really cool. See, there it is. Yeah. It takes its time. A lot of this stuff is randomized, like I said, so some of it takes its time to come back around. It gets pushed down a little bit. So that was my whole kind of intention. I just want things to poke through from time to time. I don't want like a constant state of texture or kind of chimey, like sparkliness. It just pokes through like randomly, and I love that. And I do have the air. This is just fresh air, both parameters. Yeah, just mid-air and high air.
Just crank them up.
Yeah. It just gives me a little extra control. I don't have to like scroll all the way to the end of the chain. I can just kind of, I probably won't automate any of this, but like, I don't know, if there's a part with a lot of high energy, I could just turn this off and like just give a little bit more space for something else. or pull that up, and you start to hear that texture again. And the pan mix is set pretty low, but if I turn this all the way up, it's just going to be fully going to the left and right. You'll really start to hear that movement if you're in headphones or got a pair of good speakers. So with that all the way up, it's like really moving.
Yeah, it's going hard panning even.
Yeah. You almost like lose it a little bit here and there because of all this randomized filtering and stuff like that. I did have it set pretty low. I just wanted a little bit of that. But yeah, like I said, if you want more width or create more space in the middle or something like that, you can just push this all the way up at times and automate it.
And just kind of get it off to the sides.
Exactly. Super simple.
Yeah, nice trick.
So yeah, that's pretty much that drone. This whole effects chain. It's not so crazy, you know, now that it's explained. Like I kind of collapsed.
Yeah, the LFOs were taking up a lot of space, but they weren't like audio effects themselves. Yeah. So a little deceiving.
Yeah, and I really just threw those in for that randomization. Really cool, really easy to do.
Yeah.
So that is the drone, and we've covered the keys patches. So I'm gonna jump up here now to my lead synth. Okay. So this sound is really cool. I like this one a lot. It's another one I made from scratch, and it's kind of like a filtery, like brass sort of sound. It's really cool. Let's check it out. Yeah, it's kind of got that like.
And I love all that weirdness at the end. It's like shorting out cable or something. It's really weird. That's cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, let's check this out. I will go ahead and turn off this whole effects chain so we can, again, hear what Anna is doing. So, as you can see, Anna 2 is kind of doing the bulk of the work. These just really bring out what's already there. It's like, I guess you could say this is like a lot of kind of mixing, I guess. I still consider it sound design because this isn't like mixed in my opinion. But I do like to mix as I go. It just makes everything easier. You don't want to mix a really like crazy, harsh, like messed up sound. It's just gonna give you a headache and take up your time and creativity later. So let's go back and look at these oscillators. So you can see oscillator 3 is off, but it is controlling the FM to oscillator 1.
Source, OS3, right, okay.
Yeah. So if I pull that up, you can start to hear. It's not going to sound great, but it's a way more gritty. So I just really wanted a tiny bit of that. If I take it all the way out, it's like just a really clean sound. Which I like too, but I just wanted a little bit of that like kind of gritty, like brassiness, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a cool way to add a sort of alternative transient attack other than just with an amplitude envelope. It's just changing the texture. It's really cool.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, it's really simple. I didn't do a ton with the oscillators. We got a few voices here, detuned to 50%, but this sub is kind of where that warmth is coming back in because I did push this up to an octave above. So if I take this out, it gets a little more thin. It's pretty subtle. You may not be able to tell, but I do have this oscillator 2 set to 1 voice, so I have more of a wide sound for the first oscillator and something more down the middle for the second to kind of blend those together. Now, where the sound is really being changed the most by these filters here. So I'm just going to turn these off, and you'll hear it's going to be a lot higher sounding.
Oh, yeah.
More in your face. So yeah, this first filter is doing the bulk of the work here. I have the drive set up really high because it just makes it more full sounding. You kind of get that cool harmonic distortion. But then if I move the envelope back to center, you lose that kind of filtering, like morphing movement. It just becomes a harder, just a straight sound. But if I pull this down a little bit, it kind of moves into the sound. It filters into the sound, like adding a little bit of attack, but with the filter. And if I pull it down too much, you just lose it completely. Because these are really short notes, so they would have to be extended for sure. And if I go the opposite direction, it's just the opposite effect. It's more like a plucky type of thing.
Right.
Not great. And then there is a bandpass filter, the Mogi BP, which is doing kind of the same thing, but it's just kind of filtering off like the end of the sound. If I bring this to the center, it gets a little too thinned out because it's cutting out a lot of that center. But if I pull that down, it kind of eases into that. It's not as noticeable. But I do have the drive.
But it does
up as
clean
well.
up the end.
Yeah.
The end ends up being cleaner. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the theme for this track, I guess. Like everything I've done here is really subtle, really just carefully thought out, and there's not. I'm not like pushing anything too hard. I'm not going too crazy with this synth. But it's such a mellow and like kind of organic sounding song that I wanted everything to be like little nudges, like just as subtle as I can be, without getting too like extreme sounding, I guess. But yeah, if I take all of these effects modules off, it's the same thing. It's not anything too crazy. A lot of subtle change here, just to bring out what's already there, kind of. Like we have the sound pretty much all set up with just these oscillators and these two filters. But I did add this
a little bit of sweetening.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is the same thing I'm doing down here with this post-processing. But the first thing I did here was add sidekick, which kind of just ducks on like with the kick, essentially. It's just doing a 4 on the floor, ducking, really subtle. It's not the most noticeable even. It just kind of like keeps everything like glued together. So everything's kind of moving. You have that really bouncy like house rhythm. You can hear it a little bit. You just kind of lose a little bit of the transients on the downbeat. But I bring in that high end energy with the W shaper, and I've set this to rectifier, really low dry wet, and pretty low drive as well. And I didn't touch the tone, pushed up the high pass a little bit, but just kind of gives that distortion, that kind of like brassiness that I keep saying.
What if you crank up the drive? What happens then? Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's the character, yeah.
And that can be really cool for something else too. But like I said, it's like lo-fi house. Don't want anything too abrasive or extreme going on. So subtle changes across the board. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for Anna here, except the one really cool thing about this is the G envelope. After I finished this patch, I just wanted to get a little bit more movement, some humanization, I guess. So I've added the filter, or I've linked the G envelope to filter 1 frequency. And I just made these random points. I just kind of like made a few things. I didn't really think this through at all. I just wanted it to go up and down kind of randomly. And I've turned off retrigger and loop. So at any point, it'll just be in a different spot. You can see it's just jumping around. Every time a note hits, it's in a different spot. And that's exactly what I was going for, because I just wanted it to, I just wanted some humanization with the filtering, so it can just not have that kind of robotic consistency, I guess. When things are hitting too much the same, I feel like you kind of lose that organic sound, like that human element, I guess.
Yeah, you've been doing that a lot of those just subtle, random modulations to keep everything just evolving and changing over time.
Yeah, I love randomization.
Saves you some time.
I feel like when things are random, or especially like if I don't really know a plugin that well, I feel like that's when I can really like be surprised and like find those really cool, like beautiful sounds that I wasn't even looking for, but they were just right there. And I'm not doing anything too extreme with it, but I love applying like that sort of randomness across the board. It's fun and keeps things interesting. And I know that this will kind of like, if I print down this song, it'll be a little different every time. So if you want a more consistent thing, you can just kind of record this. Like if I wanted to, I could just make a new channel, hit resampling, and I could just record into this and like comp some takes, figure out the exact take that I want.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So then it's consistent, every time after that.
So then when you print the song to send it out for mastering or whatever you do with it, you'll know that it's going to be exactly how you want it to be. But with these changes, like it's so subtle, I'm not too worried about that. I've exported this track quite a few times now, and I haven't ever thought like, oh no, that's not the right take. Like this is not very extreme at all, so it's not going to really be, I'm not really going to think about it too much. But if I pull this up, you can really start to hear the change. It gets a little more shy and like pokes through a little harder.
Yeah, and then it becomes more of a kind of important movement up at that level, and then you would want to record it, I guess, so it always happens where you intend.
Yeah, totally. That's pretty much it for the Anna portion of that sound. And this isn't too complex either, but all these plugins are amazing, and I mean, pretty much every single one of these plugins lives in all of my sessions right here. A ton more, of course, from SSL, Slate Digital, and Harrison Audio. You get all these plugins in the complete access bundle. It's amazing. And I can even just show you right here. All of these plugins. Look at that.
Jeez.
There's a ton. I
can't learn them all.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's kind of the fun part for me. Like, I love just kind of not knowing a plugin and getting to like just figure it out. Just I don't know. It's exciting to me learning new plugins. I definitely love to collect them, but with the complete access bundle, like you don't really need much more than that. Like this entire track.
Well, I guess not. That's what you're using, right?
Yeah, I mean, this entire track is filled with plugins from the complete access bundle. There's a few other, like you saw some stock LFOs and stuff, stock Ableton plugins, but like 99% of this is just all plugins from the complete access bundle. Slate plugins, like I said, SSL, and Harrison Audio. Super cool.
Nice.
But with that, let me check my notes. We covered the drone, covered the lead. Let's jump over to the bass right now.
Bass. Yeah.
Okay. We are right here. Just I have so many tracks, so everything's in groups, and I just got to navigate. Okay. I do have two bass sounds. One is a Reese, and one is just a simple sub for the drop parts. But they're pretty much the same patch. The only thing I did differently was add more voices to the Reese patch for that width, because I'm using it in the verse sections and the break over here. I'll let you check this one out. It's nothing too crazy, just a really simple classic Reese sound. But then the sub bass here, it's a little bit more aggressive version of that because, like I said, it's happening in the drop. And it's kind of...
definitely got the low end.
Yeah. It kind of holds everything together. It's like the kind of the bed of the section. So yeah, let's take a look at this. It's another really simple one. It's really cool. Simple sub. I just have a bunch of signs here, nothing crazy. I did have this in the same octave as the first one, but I ended up pushing this up to 1 octave above. But since this was the low octave, it was sounding a little bit too low, so I pushed up the sync a bit. So if I pull that down, it's a little it's a little more lost, a little more subby. Still really cool, but I just wanted something a little more present, so I pulled this up.
Yeah, now you'll be able to hear that on normal speakers.
Exactly. Like I said, this one's really simple as well. There's a few things going on I want to touch on. The first thing is just the filter. Without it, you just have that more aggressive bass sound, which I like a lot, but
cool.
It just doesn't fit as well in this track.
Maybe right at the end or something, but
yeah. In the break section or at the end, maybe, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I could set these all to macros and just automate this up or down as well. So if you can't decide, you can have it both ways. Yeah, so you can see I did the same thing here with the envelope, just to kind of ease into that sound a little bit every time it hits. And I did bring up the drive because that just beefs it up, makes it more warm.
Oh yeah.
It really goes crazy if you pull it all the way up. The drive here in these filters
sounds
is really nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds really good.
Yeah, like I could just start a new track and use something more aggressive like this. I already have this this whole patch set up. It's really simple. I like to do that with my bass sounds anyways. Like I just like to use a simple sign and just kind of add in that distortion, some drive here and there. Like I think as simple as I can make the bass, the more full it will be in the mix to me.
Well, yeah, especially on a big sound system with subs.
Sure.
Stay clean down there in the low harmonics. So
yeah,
it totally makes sense.
But if I was doing something with a more aggressive bass sound, I would probably end up just copying this down. I would just duplicate this entire track. And then I would pretty much just throw an EQ on this one and cut out all the lows, and do the opposite on this one, cut out all the highs. So I'm getting just the sub information from that patch on one. So I have total control over the sub. I can mix that however I want, and it's as clean as can be. But then I have the higher end information, like the mid lows and the high end frequency information for this side. And blending those together is going to be so much easier than just trying to mix one sound with all of that together. So yeah, cutting it into two separate. Yeah, cutting it into two separate tracks is just going to make your life easier. That's something I learned really early on that I see like almost everyone use. I don't know anyone that doesn't do that technique if they're doing like an aggressive like dubstep style bass sound or something like that, where you want things really aggressive and loud and energetic, really excited. You gotta
I think I've even heard that like in an arrangement, like, you know, in the second verse or something, they'll take out the upper track and just leave the lower one by itself. You know, so you lose that lead that it was creating for something else, and then they bring it back in the chorus or something like that. And it's it's an easy way to change the character, but without having to do it with EQs or something.
Yeah.
Like
super
automations. Easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love automating. It's a lot of fun. I know it's annoying to some people because it can.
I hate automating.
Yeah, it can be time consuming, but like after you've done it for so long, like me, like it just becomes quick and effortless. So like anything, just practice makes perfect. Just keep doing it. Sometimes you'll feel like you're forcing yourself, but it's all fun.
That's how we learn.
Yeah,
that's how we grow. Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes it easier later. But with that, let's check this out without any of this processing.
Oh,
So let's actually go back to Anna.
it's like really flat now.
Yeah. This thing I'm about to show isn't like super present in the mix because I do have submerge here, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. I do have submerge here ducking this sound to move with the kicks. So you're not hearing as
That's what
much.
was giving it the rhythm.
Exactly, yeah. So you're not hearing as much what's happening with this little pitch drop here. I have the G envelope set to pitch fine all. And I just have kind of like a kick style, like 808 style pitch drop, just right at the front of the sound. If I pull that up and kind of shape this a little differently, you'll really start to hear it.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah. It's cool.
That's cool.
It can be really cool for something else, like if I'm doing something very 808 heavy, but I just wanted like a little bit of a nudge here. Just to kind of give each different hit a little bit more character, which really comes out more in these like little hits, not the sustained bass notes, but these little hits that jump up an octave.
Yeah, they sound like little tape glitches, like you sped up the record, briefly with your finger, and it just, those are really cool. I was wondering what those were.
Yeah, so it really comes out when you hear those. But it's super subtle, like I said. Once I pull submerge back in here, you won't really hear that as much. But you can still hear it when these little melodies happen.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start bringing the rest of this stuff in. Of course, virtual mix rack. I chose the preset within the bass group, warm present bass. Does exactly what it says. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
So really subtle change again, but just like a little bit of a
Love
push
that low
with
note.
the mix there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, when it gets this one down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to drop it
Yeah.
down.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, submerge here is doing the ducking. This just makes it so much cleaner. This is like a staple house technique that I'll use. I do it in all my tracks, side chaining to the kick. But this is super easy because I just have it to auto trigger. And all I did here was pull down the morph because it's set here. So with that, you're losing a little bit too much of the bass. I wanted to pull it down to around here and leave some of that room because my kick still is kind of fat, so I don't want this. I don't want these clashing with each other and harshing up the mix. And it is on the gain mid-side, so I pulled down the tweak. You can hear that. This is how it sounds, just straight down the middle.
Oh yeah, the whole thing disappears.
Yeah, so
now the image stays there on the side, that kind of greasy-ish bit stays.
Exactly, yeah. You retain some of the side information, keeping that width, because my kick is just straight down the middle, so it's not going to clash with that at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Smart.
And the next thing I did here was just add infinity EQ. No preset. I just made a few cuts and boosted a little bit. Some problem areas. I'll generally check. I won't always cut here around like 250 hertz, but I'll always check because this is a real problem area. We talked about this in the last live session as well. Like 200 to 250. It's a lot of muddiness in that area, so it's always good to check.
Absolutely.
And just a few like simple nudges here and there, like a few cuts can really, really clean up your mix and make everything so much easier for when you mix things or when you pass it on to someone else to mix it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also did cut around 450 as well. I got a little help on this track from some of our Slate friends here. Shout out Paul Castor. He helped me with this. He told me it's a little bit too much muddiness in 450, so I made a few cuts around the mix just to clean that up a little bit. There's not a ton going on here anyways. You can see it drops off. There's not a lot of high information passed here anyways, but just a simple nudge to keep it clean. Never hurt.
Yeah, so it's adding up.
But now we're about to add in infinity bass, which is going to make it a little more full.
It's getting me now more in the forehead.
Yeah. What I did here was just I loaded up the low fattener preset. I pushed up the amount a little bit, and I set the output gain to where it was, or where it originally is at 0, where it was like down to like -3, I think, for the preset. But I didn't want to lose that gain, so I just brought it back in. This is an incredible plugin. I use this on all my bass patches and my kicks as well. It's a really, really good one to fatten up any low-end sound you have. It's awesome. And it's super easy to use too. Okay, so and the last thing I did here in the chain is just add some heat wave for that nice drive.
Ooh.
Yeah. I feel like that's the most noticeable change here at the end of the chain.
Yeah. Oh man, that's really cool.
Yeah, and again, just a subtle push, only to 18. If I push this way up, it's gonna not sound amazing. You'll start to lose some of the characteristics that you want out of your low end. It just makes it way more gritty.
Yeah, but it was adding this cool, like low-mid saturation down where you had it.
Yeah.
Just adding a little more kind of like a brassy, blatty characteristic to it. That was missing. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, how I usually do things is I'll just crank it up all the way and then start to dial it back from there. I always love to hear the extreme first. Fully knowing that I'm probably not going to push it that far, but you can really start to dial it back and find like the sweet spot, I guess. Yeah, so around there, it's all
gooey.
Yeah, exactly.
Gooey and warm right there.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It gets really gooey and warm. Yeah. I do have utility at the end here to mono out the bass a little bit, just because I don't really need the bass to be super wide. It's just
I think we were also talking about that in the last episode, to keep your bass mono. Comes out better on speakers. And if you're going to cut this on vinyl, you'll need your bass in mono as well. So
sure. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, a little bit of gain reduction there, but nothing too crazy. But since we were talking about submerge, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the kick just to show that kind of kick-bass relationship and really show what submerge is doing there. So yeah, it's super fluid. They're working together. It's clean. But if I turn this off, it gets a little bit less fluid.
Oh, it lost all the bounce.
Yeah, there's no more bounce. They're all hitting together at the same time. It's not like I'm not really getting like any harshness out of this, but it's just not what I want. It's house music, so you need that rhythm, you need that bounce. It's got to be able to It's got to be able to make you move, and that doesn't really do it for me.
I mean, that's got a moment, like if you just wanted to kill the downbeats, it works, but once you put submerge in, then it offsets nicely with the offbeats. That I think gets a little more of the head nod happening. It's nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And since we're talking about the kick, I'll jump over here as well. If I turn all of this off, this is what we are left with. Oh, I'm not doing it right. So that's just the clean kick. I didn't do a ton of processing because I mean, it's dance music. I'm using a lot of samples, and a lot of these samples are already processed a lot. So I didn't want to go too crazy with it. It can start to get really messy really fast, and harsh and terrible sounding. which it did at one point, but I dialed it back and figured it out. So let's go ahead and check these out. Transient shaper is the first thing I have here. It's a cool kick, but I wanted it a little bit tighter.
Oh, yeah.
You can see there, the attack is pushed up a little bit just to kind of push that transient through the mix, make it poke through a little harder. I pulled the sustain down because this kick was pretty boomy, so if I push this up, you can start to hear that harshness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And pump, pulled it down just a little bit to tighten things up just a little tiny bit more. Or pushed it up, rather.
Yeah.
See, all the way up, it's a little too thin. It's not really what I wanted. And then all the way down.
Yeah, that's too fat.
Yeah, it's a little too fat. You get a little bit of that harshness. So around there was kind of the sweet spot for me. And I turned on clipping too. Speed will just help you dial it in.
Oh, yeah.
See, too much or too little, it's not the right placement.
Yeah,
so we'll go right there. And the next thing I did was add infinity EQ, which again, this actually is a preset. It's the hip hop kick punch. So you get a little bit of boost in the low end here, a gigantic notch here, around 500, and just a little bit of a boost here. I didn't really do too much to this, I don't think.
Yeah, it helps just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a tiny
Really
push.
got to be wearing headphones to hear that, but
yeah. You might not be hearing that much change there, but it's a little bit rounder, I guess. But the bulk of it is really coming from infinity bass here. So that's without, and we bring that in. Much thicker.
Yeah.
I've got the Kick Magic preset, which is,
how about that?
It really is Kick Magic. I kind of always go for this one first. I love this. But yeah, if I push this amount up, you can hear more of a change.
Ooh.
Like a lot of subby.
Tonal.
Yeah, a lot of sub in there. Yeah, we'll leave it around kind of here. That was sounding good to me.
Yeah.
Like I said, amazing plugin. Really, really good to beef up your low end on any sound. Could even pull that down a little bit further. Nice. Okay, so you're seeing probably a reverb here, and you might be wondering what is going on with that.
That's unusual for a kick drum.
Right, yeah. That's just a quick effects thing I did here, which super simple. All I did was create a hall kick by using this filter to cut out all that high-end information and Verb Suite to just give it that hall, like big boom sound kind of.
St. Peter's Hall.
Yeah, St. Peter's Hall. We're in the Dodge Cathedral with this one. So yeah, this, I'm in the wrong spot. It's over here. Okay. So we have this build up, and then it just goes into this hall kick. So these are only active for like a few seconds, and then it goes right back to the regularly scheduled 4 on the floor house beat.
Boom.
So yeah, it's completely gone.
Yep.
But yeah, we get a cool.
Are you automating the wet dry in Verb Suite? Is that what turns it off?
Yeah. So yeah, it's just the dry wet, I believe. Whoops. Where?
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so it's around 50%, and it kind of just trails off, and I completely get rid of it by the time the kick comes back in. And another cool thing I did here was I resampled this whole beat for the build-up, kind of. Resampling is one of my favorite techniques, where I'll take a chunk of the song, sometimes even the whole song, and just kind of record it to a new channel. And then from there, I can pitch it down an octave, stretch it, get really cool different effects, like little glitches or something like that, or just like taking a sound that I couldn't figure out how to use, or up here I had I have this kind of like guitar sounding synth, but the melody line that I created wasn't working in the song at all. So what I did was resample it down to this channel, and I just started cutting it up and making kind of a rhythmic thing out of it. So if you can't figure out what to do with a sound, just print it and start chopping it up. If it fits in your track, then it could be really cool. But I did that with the house beat here just for a cool little build-up. So we got some murder melodies on there, a little bit of space, a little filtering out here. Just right into that hall kick for a cool boom.
Yeah.
And let's hear that all in context. Just right back into it. So yeah, that's resampling. That's one of my favorite techniques. I use it on drums, synths, vocals, whatever. It's a lot of fun to do, and it's really easy. So I really encourage you to go and just like print stuff down and start chopping it up. It can be really cool.
That's hard to do sometimes. I want to leave things as MIDI
Yeah.
as long as possible. But, what if I have to change it later?
Well, in that case, I mean, you can just, it'll be different in every DAW, but you can just freeze your track, create a new channel, pull this down, pull it down while copying it, so you still have that MIDI up here, or your sample, or whatever you're copying down. And then you can just leave this. You can turn this channel off and just leave it in case you want to go back to it later. You still have that in there. And if you're trying to like save space by getting rid of it, and you're still not sure you might want it later, like you could just save that into your user library, save it as a channel, so you can just pull that in whenever you want, or if you need it for a different session, whatever. It'll be there.
Yeah.
You can always pull it. So let me just check my notes here. We are running out of time here, so I might just cut it off here and maybe open it up for questions. I had a couple other presets I wanted to show, but they're a little complicated, so I don't think we have time to get into all that.
We might. I mean, you were mentioning something to me yesterday about like mixing the drums together.
Oh, yes.
Because these are all these like really dry samples, but it sounded like kind of just like one loop.
Yeah, right.
Like one sample loop that you were playing right there.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That is something I really wanted to show. So what I do here is, like you said, all these drums are just samples, making dance music, so none of this stuff is like live recorded sounds. So they're coming from all different places. They're not all recorded in the same space. Some of them are really dry, some of them have like a little bit different of a tail or something like that. So what I'll do is just create a send here. And using Verb Suite, I am putting all of these drums into a room so you can kind of glue them together and keep them more cohesive. So let's go ahead and check out these drums just totally dry without the room engaged.
Right, that's how my sample drums normally sound, just all kind of super dry and disconnected in a way.
Yeah. And yeah, you want them to kind of feel like they all were recorded in the same space. It makes things more consistent, and it feels more glued together, like they belong together in a way. So with the drum room engaged, you kind of get that. You get that room sound. Everything is in the same space.
But not the kick. The
Not
kick
the kick.
sounds dry.
Yeah, I will sometimes mix that in. Let's see, this is C, so this one. I'll sometimes mix it in, but it's not going to sound great.
Yeah.
If I do end up mixing that in a little bit, I'll usually add an EQ here just to cut out the lows, to keep it clean. And I'll end up doing that with my reverb sends anyways. I'll add some EQs to clean it up. I'll add MoTT to excite it more, things like that. But I haven't done that here because it's just a clean room. I haven't done any mixing on that at all. Like I said, this track isn't done yet, but just with that simple room, it sounds so much cleaner. And you can even get away with having the kick in there a little bit. It doesn't sound terrible to me right there, but I don't need it in there.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll show you like the main hat sound. My process for this is I'll just turn it all the way up. Like I said before, just check out the extreme, and then you can dial it back from there. So you can hear that hi-hat is poking through way too much.
Yeah.
Start to dial that back, and to me, the sweet spot is going to be around where you can just barely start to hear it. So it's still pretty present there, and I'm kind of losing it around here. Right, so around like 20-ish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, too much.
Yeah, so right there, that's kind of the sweet spot for me. Because you can still hear it, it's still giving you that room sound, but it's just not poking through too hard. It's clean, and it's working together with all the rest of the drums really well. And if you look here, you can see they're all at different amounts. Because I like to dial in each drum by itself individually because they don't all need the same amount of space.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much that technique. I do that in every single track I make, unless it's, like I said, live drums or something like that. Anytime that I'm using samples, it's a great way to just really quickly glue everything together and make it feel like they're all recorded in the same space. They belong together, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty much that technique. And that pretty much sums it up. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover from this track.
That's quite a lot already.
Yeah.
Even though it looks like you're not done with it yet. This is only about 4 minutes, almost 4 minutes long, or do you keep it kind of short most of the time?
Yeah, I'm
used to like really long house tracks.
Yeah, it's a little shorter. I am gonna add more vocals and stuff here. The track's not done completely, but I felt it was getting a little repetitive. It actually was a little bit longer, but I took some advice to cut that off. Right at the sweet spot. It didn't need to keep extending. Like I said, it's a little bit of a repetitive track, so I don't want to like bore the listeners. I want them to go and start it over, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, that sums it up. Hope you guys learned something. I hope it was interesting and cool.
Yeah.
And I also hope you liked the track.
Did. Yeah, it's groovy.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for showing us all those details. And if you like what you're seeing in these videos, be sure to like and subscribe because we're going to be doing these quite often, at least once a month, I think. And of course, we're open to any suggestions you have on what other kind of topics you'd like us to cover in these videos. You know, the first one we did was a mix of a funk band. Mm-hmm. Now we've done some sound design, but if there's any other specific elements that you would like to know about, deep dives into certain techniques, please just let us know here on Facebook, on the support channel, anything like that, and we'll try to schedule that up for the next one. So, and if this is your first time seeing all this stuff, check out the complete access bundle. You can just go to slatedigital.com and sign up for the trial today, and you'll get everything that Kevin was just showing in here. I mean, even more, right? Kevin, you're not even using all the plugins yet in this track.
Just so you can see just how many there are.
Yeah, it's this huge list. And you'll also get access to the Virtue auto mastering system. So you can even take a track like this, throw it through there, and get a nice mastered track out the other end. It's all included. It's really, really great value. So, thanks a lot, everyone, for attending. And see you in the next one. Ciao.